Cameras rolling. This is the Bell Podcast, episode 12. Take the only take.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Bell. This is a podcast that celebrates women in sports, entertainment, and the creative industry, where we talk about these ladies, we celebrate their careers, they tell us about their journeys with the aim of inspiring you to also make an impact in these industries. So today we're going to talk all things hip-hop, music, culture, being a writer. Guys, we have a plug. We have a plug, guys, to all things culture. Welcome, Mercia.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you for the invite. I'm sorry it took so long.
Yeah.
Should have happened much sooner. We're here now.
No, it's okay. So as long as we're here, right?
Right.
So let's talk about. Actually, no. Let me just start with this, right? Mercia, you were so hard to research. Why don't you do interviews?
Because I'm not the person being interviewed. Like,
Yeah, you know.
I'm the person doing the interviews.
But like, do you ever do interviews?
I do, but hardly ever. Hardly ever.
Are you shy? Is it?
Not even. It's just like I said, I prefer being the person behind the camera, behind the mic,
okay.
asking the questions, getting the information out. So
Okay.
yeah.
So today it's all about you, okay?
Okay.
So please take us back. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? And when did you start getting into hip-hop, basketball even, right?
So I'm from Durban. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Durban my entire life. My family is from Durban and Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape.
Okay.
So I've lived there most of my life, and then after high school I came to Joburg and started working. And here's the thing, I started working in corporate like
After high school?
yeah, I went straight into the workplace.
All right.
And was studying part-time. So, and I started working in corporate, and yeah, and I just plodded along actually. And insofar as the love for music and culture and hip-hop, that was always there. That's always just something that you kind of gravitate towards from a young age. And coming from a colored community, like, oh my God, Tupac was huge in Wentworth, because I come from Wentworth in Durban.
Okay.
So coming from a colored community, like R&B and hip-hop particularly are really big, particularly West Coast. But so it was fully
So you grew up on Tupac,
exactly,
West Coast rap, okay.
all of those. So and that's just generally how I got into it, because you wake up. I think hood stories are the same in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
A hood is a hood is a hood. You
Yeah.
wake up on a Saturday morning,
world, yeah.
there is a neighbor with music like
100%.
blasting loud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was the hood story. And that's just generally how I got into music. But just on I think in the way that everybody's interested in music, you like the way it makes you feel, and you like this particular song, and you react to that particular song. It wasn't anything that I even thought of getting into on a career level years later.
I'd like to know the reason why, right? Because growing up, we're exposed to traditional careers, right? So you don't even think about being part of like the hip hop culture, right? So why do you think you've never thought of? Is it because you were not taught or like exposed to these careers? Like actually, you really like this. You can do this for a living.
So definitely that.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, when you're growing up, I think, and again, all hood stories are the same. Like, when you come from hood, your parents just want you to succeed.
Yeah.
And for them, success looks like a very particular kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? For them, success looks like you are a doctor, or you are an engineer, an artisan of sorts, you're a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Because that was what success was for them.
Okay.
And so they just assume that moving forward, you're going into a very structured career, you know what I'm saying, in order for you to do well in your life. So there wasn't access to that kind of opportunity,
100%.
And a huge part of it was that, hey, I didn't know I could do that, but also at the same time, I was very book smart in school.
Okay.
So I was leaning towards, like a corporate kind of career. So that's one of the things that I actually did want to do. Until, again, much, much later. I was and how I got into being vocal about music opinions and hip hop particularly was I just was very vocal on social media.
Yeah.
So I
Were
was
you a troll?
I wasn't a troll,
Yeah.
but I would make my opinions known, right?
Okay.
So and I remember how I particularly decided, you know what, I'm not a bad writer. Let me just get into let me write something about it, because I felt like it was 140 characters at the time,
Yes.
and now it's 220, right? So 140 characters at the time was too little for me to get out this whole long thing that I was thinking about. And what inspired that thought process was Jay-Z's Magna Carta Holy Grail.
Okay.
So he dropped this album, and I mean, I'd been into Jay-Z, I'd been into hip hop in general. He dropped this album, and like, this album is trash.
What?
But instead of just saying that it's trash,
You explained everything.
trash.
Yeah.
So instead of just like, you know, having 140 characters to kind of, I wanted something long form. I wanted to explain exactly why I thought this was trash.
Okay.
And I thought I'd be able to flesh it out into like, you know, a bit of a long form article. And one of my friends at the time, Ashraf Stakala, he was running a site called Broke Billionaire,
Okay.
which then morphed into Checker Digital, right? Along the same lines of hip hop and culture, and you know what I'm saying. So I asked him, I asked him if they take submissions, you know,
Yeah.
if I'd be able to write something, and he's like, no, for sure, definitely. And I did, and I wrote exactly why Jay-Z, as an elder statesman now, shouldn't be trying to be flashy, you know, with the lifestyle. He should be taking us through his journey as a person in his 40s, you know what I'm saying? Like, what does success mean for him
Yes,
at
yeah.
that stage, instead of just trying to be popping bottles and Tom
Like, you
Ford
old now,
and
bro.
you know what I'm saying? So I wrote that article,
Yeah.
and it was published on Checker, and then the plug was started not too long after that. It was started by Nick Holmer.
Okay.
So he was the founder. And Karen Williams was the editor, the first editor, right?
Interesting.
So we all followed each other, and they liked my opinions. And, you know, just particularly on music and like how I was eloquent in explaining these things.
Yes.
And as the plug started up, they asked me if I'd mind like contributing to it musically, and I was like, no problem. I mean, I
You
could do
started as
it.
a contributor.
I started as a contributor, just as a
Okay.
writer. But from the beginning, I was there, and they would sometimes, you know, throw ideas at me on like, you know, what they wanted me to write about, and other times, you know, I would come back with that as in like, I think, you know, this would be great and whatnot. And from there, I think they, you know, I noticed even personally, like my stuff got a lot more traction, like online when they would publish it, and it's like, this girl knows what she's talking about. You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
actually, I'm not that bad.
No, and it's not even just me like bigging myself
Yeah.
up. It was, I noticed other people in the industry were like, this makes sense.
And you're like, oh.
You know what I'm saying? And from there, I started doing interviews with artists. One of my first interviews actually was with Anati. And it was so dope because I just expected us to sit at either a restaurant or like maybe a label or, you know, somewhere like very casual or whatever.
Yeah.
And he invited me to his house to have
wow.
to have the interview done at his house. And the reason why is because he works from home, right? He has a studio at the basement of his house. So we were sitting in the studio and I was talking to him, and he was about to come out with his debut album at the time, Artifact. And it featured like Tiwa Savage and all of that. And I'm sitting here and he started playing me music off the album. He couldn't like...
That's crazy. Before releasing,
Right!
oh my god.
So he started
Yeah.
playing me like deep cuts of the album. I was like, oh my god, like what is that? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But yeah, so and I did a write up about Anati and he loved it as well. But and then I moved into interviewing, you know, more and more musicians, more and more artists, until I started doing like the serious stuff, like the cover stories. You know what I'm saying? And man, I can't think of any hip hop artist in SA that I haven't interviewed.
Ooh,
Well, something
okay.
on a big scale.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I've interviewed quite a few of them. So yeah, because I ended up doing most of the cover interviews.
Yes.
Anyway, I was a senior writer at that time. And now because my opinions are trusted, you know, I could put out opinion pieces as well. And then Karen left the plug, and she decided that she, was going to start up the throne. And then Nick tried to handle editorial for a while, and he was just like, you know what, he can't do it. And he's like, I want you to be the editor. And that's how I became editor. And then my journey just continued from there. I was like, okay, this is dope. Mind you, I'm still working at the time.
Wait, what do you mean? So
I was working full time.
So the plug is not full time this time?
No, at the time, I was still working full time. I had my office job. And then all of this was happening on weekends, after work, like in my spare time. This was my 5 to 9. It was a lot of work, but because the thing is, like, because you're so passionate about it and
because you love it, you'll make time for it.
Exactly. And it fueled me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it fueled me in a way that I didn't know I needed or I even wanted at the time.
But why did it take so long to leave your 9 to 5?
Because this industry is tough, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to make a living out of
100% actually.
it's actually quite a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, I was still working at the time. And doing all of this part-time, and I was, even when I took over the editorship, I was still doing it part-time.
Oh wow.
And it was a hell of a lot of work, but I did it. And then Nick had moved into a different business environment, and it was taking a lot of time, and
he didn't have the capacity.
He didn't have the capacity to be the publisher of the plug anymore, or the owner.
Yeah.
And he said to me, listen, he wants to just relinquish it in totality. Like, he wants to sell the plug. And he said the first conversation that he had about that with anybody was with me, because I was there from the beginning.
You grew up with it, like, the brand.
He said, I've been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And he said to me,
Wait, you have one here. Sorry. Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And he said to me, because of his business connections, he can take this property and sell it to somebody who'd be able to, write him a check immediately.
Yeah.
But he wanted to give this, what he felt like was his baby,
someone who cares
to somebody who cared about it.
Yes.
So I was the first conversation that he had, and he asked me if I would buy it from him. And I didn't even think about it. I just almost said yes immediately, instinctively.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, oh shit, when am I going to buy it?
Yeah, I was like, what's this? How's that? Oh shit, like, I need to buy this thing.
But hey, I made a plan, right? And financed it, and eventually paid it back with the financing of it in about 2 years.
That's crazy.
And the reason why, again, was because I was still working full time.
So wait, even when you bought it?
Yes.
What?
I continued working because I felt like I needed the stability
of
my check every day. You know what I'm saying? Every month. And whatever money comes in for the plug go into the financing of the plug.
It's interesting.
Until I got to a point where I burned.
I mean, obviously, there's no way.
And I don't even know how I was running, but it felt like at a certain place I was running on fumes. And then I had lined up, quite a bit of work to sustain me for the next 6 months or so, and then I quit my 9 to 5 and I focused on the plug full time. The problem is,
What's the problem?
That I decided to focus on the plug full time from January 2020.
Okay.
And then we went into COVID.
But isn't that perfect?
No, it isn't.
Why not?
Every piece of work that I had lined up, the very first thing that companies did was shut down marketing budgets.
Okay.
So, because you're a publisher, you know what I'm saying, and we work in marketing and the advertising space, that's my revenue. That's my revenue. And when we went into lockdown, that was the first thing that companies cut out, was marketing and advertising.
Goodness.
And every piece of work that I had lined up for those 6 months literally disappeared into thin air.
So what was your train of thought when we were going into shutdown? Like now?
I really 2020 was the worst year of my life.
Really?
I went into a very heavy depression, not just only because of that, but just for personal reasons.
Yeah.
Like my dad passed away in March 2020. My brother committed suicide a couple months later. It was just a very difficult year for me. And through COVID, I had to survive on my savings. And I got work here and there. But it was a struggle the whole year.
But you restructured the plug though, because now you created it into an agency as well.
So that's the thing, right? Because when clients come to you, so I personally I put the customer at the center of the plug's experience, right?
Okay.
That's how when you go onto the site, there are no adverts. Because I personally hate, like when I go into any site and I must exit.
Yeah, all these
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
All these pop-ups and whatnot before I can actually get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, there must be a way that I can work around this.
Yeah.
And so the plug doesn't monetize, advertising in that particular way, but monetize advertising in other creative ways. You know what I'm saying? So we do like creative production for brands and do like sponsored covers for brands. You know what I'm saying? And then that brings in that kind of revenue that we need to continue. But yeah, I'm very customer centric with everything. Like if it doesn't look good to me, would
I enjoy this?
Exactly.
Yeah. Why am I doing it anyways?
Exactly. Maybe we'll get to a point, when we have like some kind of Google ads or whatever in a unique like niche kind of way that doesn't feel like you're bombarded with spam every time you go onto the site.
It needs to feel natural.
Right.
So in high school, you did say you were book smart, right? What subjects did you take?
I actually applied when I applied for varsity, right?
Yeah, you studied accounting science.
I applied for chemical engineering because my marks were that good. So my maths, my physics.
So, but were you into writing? Like, was English one of your favorite subjects?
It was. But the thing is, like, I'm not trying to brag, but like I excelled at English. I excelled at maths and science. I excelled at like accounting.
Okay.
So, but English was, again, it just felt like a creative expression and something that I'm going to go into.
Yeah, it's just outlets. That's it. Yeah.
So when applying for for places in varsity in matric,
never thought journalism.
I didn't really, because my physics teacher, he loved me so much, and he's like, you really get this. When he used to struggle to like explain a concept to the class,
that's
like,
very interesting.
You know what I'm saying? So I applied for chemical engineering, and my backup was accounting.
Oh wow!
And then, and I got in actually, but because I was book smart, I thought like these are the things that I needed to do. I didn't eventually. Eventually, I didn't do chemical engineering, and I did end up in accounting science, which is how my corporate career went.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's how I ended up doing that, and it helps me to this day, like with my business. I can do my business books,
and you understand
then just have an auditor look over it. You know what I'm saying? But like I know how to do certain things because of my experience in corporate.
Oh wow!
And like how to actually run a company, because that's the thing with creators, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like now, as an owner of a business,
let's go. I like this conversation.
Before, all I did was focus on the creative. All I did was write, and
that's it.
and better myself at writing and at the creative. And like now, I have to focus on business first. And then it takes so much time away from creative, and I wish I could dedicate more time to writing as much again, but unfortunately I can't.
Really? So like it's mainly business for your position. Yeah. Oh goodness. So for young girls, people watching this, what subjects would you advise them to take if they want to be in your position in high school?
Definitely English. Focus on English.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh sorry. No. Yeah, it's just a cue. Yeah.
Definitely English. I think one of the things that I still have like imposter syndrome about to this day is that I didn't study journalism, right? And what we are doing is actually entertainment journalism.
Yeah.
So just certain things about journalism, the structures that like a degree would teach you and show you, like I've had to learn that on my own. You know what I'm saying? But definitely English in school. History would be great because it gives you imagination.
Oh wow.
In a way that like seeing what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It broadens your horizons in what could possibly happen in the future.
Yes.
And in that way it gives you imagination.
And then in university, would you advise them to study journalism?
Journalism, but even in the particular art field itself, like study music, like study film, study acting, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Study all of these things that make you a better artist, because I think in creative space you need to be a better artist before you are a business person or a perfectionist. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I'm saying that is because that's the thing that brings you success, is the artistry itself. It's the creative. And you have to be undeniable at that. Because that's what people look to you for. That's what clients come to you for, is because you've created or you've curated this beautiful experience so well that people flock to you for it. So you have to put your, like, all of your energy and your oomph into your artistry.
You know, in the last episode, we had Paula Gumeda, right? And we were talking about, like, so she was telling me that she doesn't have a degree. I'm like, oh my goodness, like myself as well, right? But I wanted to know from you, you know, like you you're an entrepreneur, you're running the plug. Obviously, there's people coming to you for employment.
Right.
Do you check if they have a degree or not, or are you more interested in the skill?
I'm more interested in the skill. I don't particularly care if you have a degree.
Really?
I definitely am more interested in the skill. However, in the same way that I had to make it work without a degree and learn certain parameters of the industry that I'm working in, because even though we're in entertainment journalism, I'm also doing marketing, and I have to learn. I just thrown into the advertising industry. You know what I'm saying? And I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? But I had to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I expect people to show that kind of initiative. Sure, you might not know how to structure out an article correctly, but you have to perfect it. You have to go back and ask questions and even Google, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And take initiative to better yourself at what you're doing. So I don't necessarily require a degree.
What are the common misconceptions about your career and the position that you hold at the plug?
That I'm more influential than I actually am.
Do you think that's a misconception?
I think it kind of is to a degree.
Okay, why?
I have access.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
It puts me in a bit of an influential position, but I don't have as much pull as people think I do.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, and the thing is, artists are nice to me because, to a degree, they have to be nice to me. Otherwise, I'm gonna write shit. You know what I'm saying? But
That's true.
but that's the thing with any kind of journalism thing. Like, people who speak to journalists are nice to journalists because journalists have the
I have
ability.
a voice. Like,
Exactly. So I'm also wary of that artists, you know, I have access to certain things, and maybe other people think, oh, this is so glitzy and this is, you know, glamorous. And let me tell you something about this industry. There's a lot that happens in the back that's just pure work. It's not glamorous at all. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think people think I'm just way more influential, and I don't think I am. But then maybe that's just me being me.
Maybe you're doubting yourself. Maybe you
not necessarily. Like, I feel like I've always tried to be down to earth in whatever I do, right? And that's why I never get starstruck as well. Even with like international celebrities, it's like, a person is a person is a person. You breathe the same air that I breathe in. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put you on a pedestal or a platform just because you seem particularly gifted at one thing. You know what I'm saying? You're still a human being.
That's true.
And so that's how I treat myself. Like, I don't expect people to like fawn or gush over me or whatever, or treat me as though I am an influential person in that regard. I don't appreciate that. Like, just approach me as a person, and I'm good like that.
All right, and then last few questions. So for young people trying to make it into this industry, whether it be, you know, entertainment journalism or even marketing, how would you advise them to, or where would you advise them to start?
Anybody, whatever your creative endeavor is, whoever you are, you have to start with your people.
Okay.
Right? You
And
have
how
to
does
start
that work?
in your community, in like your physical community, your online community, people that know you. You have to, that's how you grow your network, right?
Oh, wow.
As through, first of all, your
people.
community, your people. But secondly, like I mentioned before, you have to be undeniable. You have to set yourself apart.
But then, so let's say I just work on my craft. Do I just hope that someone in the industry sees me? How do I get it?
Man, and it's difficult. It's kind of difficult for me to answer this question because that's how I got in. You know what I'm saying? It's by being good at what you do and constantly working on being better at what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? People will notice. But what I'm saying is you have to start with the people that you already do know.
Yeah.
And those people will put you on, and hopefully, you know, your community will grow in that way.
Okay.
And so that's the best advice I can give, because to this day, that's how I get work. You know, people know that the plug stands for this,
Yes.
you know, and that we have these content pillars that are music, fashion, and culture, but they know like the quality of work that we put out, and that's why clients approach me.
Oh, wow.
So, in as much as I am proactive and you know and make pitches and go out looking for work, a lot of work comes to me because they can see this is the quality of the product that we have put out.
Oh, wow.
And that's the thing, like, people are not going to give you a chance unless they know what you absolutely can do.
Yeah,
already.
that's true.
So you have to use whatever's at your disposal.
Okay, use whatever you have right now.
Whatever
Yeah.
you have right now, and try and be better with that.
Okay, and then lastly, 3 women who would you like to see in this podcast? Would like to be featured? 3 women that you feel like are not celebrated as much as they should be.
One would be Jax, Imvelo-Jaxa from Imvelo-Jaxa.
Yeah.
So I feel like she is a really great example for people in the creative sphere, because until as it started as a company as well, they were kind of thrown into it. They just wanted to throw a party for their friends. You know what I'm saying? And then they got into events organizing. But like the way that they've grown that business, literally from a party for my friends to this agency.
Now it's a company.
Now it's in, you know what I'm saying? It's a fully fledged agency. And like what Jax had to do to be part of that. Like I love her.
And she was young, you know. I mean,
she's still young.
Yeah, actually.
She's 29 years old. And she's been doing this for like 9 years.
And you're
now.
like, what? That's crazy. Yeah.
So, and I love that. I love I generally love the story of like young people getting into entrepreneurship. And I don't mean to glorify it because it's a very difficult journey. You know what I'm saying? And you need support, and you need community, and you need a system, and you need a lot of things. So it's a very difficult journey. But I really love the idea of young people getting up and putting everything on their back and saying like, we're doing this ourselves. So Jax is definitely one of them. Man, there's so many, because there's so many women in this industry that I admire as well. Like Tuli Kubire from.
Oh yes, everyone has been saying
exactly. Tuli from Low. And the thing is, as a person, like I know she's a bit quiet and a little bit demure, so she's not that talkative. You know what I'm saying? But what Tuli has managed to do in this industry is
crazy,
unprecedented.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the fact that for a long time she did it alone, you know, and then she started bringing people on board. Tuli absolutely is like, she's so amazing. I almost feel like a groupie sometimes when I'm speaking about her. But Tuli definitely is one of those women. There's a lot, man. There's people like Sibu Mabena. There's people like Nandi Lebu.
Yeah.
Like these women have literally brought like the rest of us up. You know what I'm saying? It's a community of women in creative pursuits who are just doing the absolute best work that they can. Like, I love everybody. Like, there's just so many names. There's so many.
And that's a good thing, right? That's so exciting.
Right.
Because I feel like, you know, when you came up... Sorry, you know, I swear. So, like, when you came up, how many women were there in the industry?
Not many,
few,
that's
right?
the thing.
Wow.
Right, particularly with hip-hop, let me say.
Yeah.
Because that was the focus of my content for a long time. I started with music and then, you know, did more culture and fashion and so on and so forth. Particularly with hip-hop, because men are so derogatory, like, what does this girl know? You know what I'm saying?
And it's so funny, because why is it a male thing? Like, we can all listen to it. But anyways, thank you, Marsha, for your time. And your story, you're so vulnerable with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope you get to do more interviews. Your story needs to be heard and
I
shared.
will. I mean,
Alright.
I'm at a point sometimes when like artists will ask to be interviewed by me, particularly like some of the bigger artists. You know what I'm saying? So when labels will say, "Hey, Mangman," you know.
No, I meant you for yourself.
Yes.
Like, you need to share your own story.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I hope you get to do more of that.
Yeah, we'll see. I just don't think I'm
'Cause you're
that big
inspiring.
of a character yet in order to.
You don't have to, just be yourself. The same way you like Rags, Tuli, Sibu, Mabena, Nandin Zepu, you mean that much for young people coming up in this industry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you guys for watching The Bell. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Where can people catch you on socials?
My handle is Miss Mercia _ all across, so that's MISSMERCIA _.
All right, and then the plug. Are you not?
I mean,
Where can we catch the plug?
sorry, the Plug magazine everywhere, and the handles are the Plug SA. Online, theplugmagazine.com. But yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of aware of it right now, but more the merrier.
Exactly. Guys, thanks again for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. If you have any questions for Mercia, put them down in the comment section. I will forward them to her. And yeah, this has been The Bell. Thank you and bye.